Welcome to the Inner Circle. I'm Mike Brown, and I am here with Kevin Dahlstrom. And the whole idea behind this show is that iron sharpens iron, and we're going to have the conversations that we would have behind closed doors anyway. Today, our topic is one that is near and dear to Kevin's heart. And on the heels of our last episode, something that I've changed my mind on, and that is the concept of minimalism. So the prompt today is a cartoon that you posted. And for the audio listeners, it's a guy in a Bugatti saying, "I wish I had a yacht." And then underneath that, a guy in a Porsche saying, "I wish I had a Bugatti." And then underneath that is Kevin depicted saying, "Damn, my Land Cruiser's sick."
Yes.
So, Kevin, tell me about minimalism, and let's go from there.
Yeah. So this cartoon, by the way, I didn't create it. A guy on X named James Reeves created it. It went super viral. I mean, when I saw it, it had 55,000 likes. So clearly it was hitting a nerve. And the funny part for me was, I'm the cliche in that cartoon. I mean, literally the guy in the Porsche who's just striving for more. And then below it, the guy in the old Land Cruiser who's like, "This car is sick." That was literally me. So quick story. And this is one of my first actually viral posts I ever put onto X years ago, was the story about buying a Porsche. And the short version is, in my mid 40s, I landed this big C-level job at this multi-billion-dollar company. You know, the compensation package was awesome. And, I was like, you know what? I'm going to reward myself. I'm going to go buy a Porsche 911. It's a car that, when I was a teenager, posters of it from Road and Track magazine hung on my wall. It was the epitome of success to me. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy that car. And so I went to the Porsche dealership in Dallas, wrote a check for $220,000. This was, 10 years ago. So I'm sure there are more now. Bought the car, and it wasn't a financial stretch. So that was nice. Got the car home. Beautiful 911 twin turbo convertible, white. It's in my garage. I'm laying in my bed at night and I can't sleep. And what I realized was that car was not giving me the satisfaction I expected. In fact, it was stressing me out. And I think the epiphany I had was that I'm not 16-year-old Kevin anymore, whose dream of success is owning a Porsche 911. My values had changed. And, there's a whole story around how really rock climbing was a big catalyst for that. But it wasn't my definition of success anymore. So the punchline is, I took the car back to the dealership. To their credit, they took it back, shook my hand, said, "You're the first person ever to do that." And that was really my first big dip into the world of minimalism. And, minimalism is not what most people think it is. But I'm going to pause there and let you respond to that a little bit before we go into sort of what minimalism is and what it isn't.
Well, you compressed my, decade-long journey into 24 hours. So good on you for learning the lesson a little faster. But mine actually has a slightly different arc, which is cars were a big part of my life. I also had the red Lamborghini Countach poster on my wall, but I grew up connecting with my dad over cars. We love cars. We would go to car shows, and when I made my first $1 million, I bought my first cool car. It was an Audi S7, and then I bought an R8, and I've had many cool cars over the years. And when we met, I had a McLaren 720S and a Lamborghini Huracan Technica, and I've sold both of those in the last year. And the reason I sold them was not because I don't like them anymore or I don't like cars anymore. It's because the cost per use stopped making sense. And for cars were a huge part of my life for a long time. I was part of car culture. I'd go to shows, I'd go to track days. I love to tell people, buy the ticket, take the ride. I am so happy that I own those cars. But about a year ago, my wife looked at me and said, "Hey, when was the last time you drove the Lamborghini?" And she had me, man. I knew it. I went out and checked the odometer, and I had put 800 miles on that car since I bought it. And one of my favorite quotes is "Show me your bank account and show me your calendar, and I'll show you what you actually value." It's Peter Drucker. Mm-hmm. Well, my bank account said I valued these cars, but my calendar wasn't. Right? I wasn't actually using them. They were an artifact of a life that I loved, but was actually no longer congruent with who I am now. So I just tried a little thought experiment. What would it be like without them? So that's my journey to minimalism. It's slightly different.
And I'm proud of you for divesting of. You still have supercars, but I'm also proud that I played maybe some small role in that by influencing you, just pushing you over the edge. But I think what it's interesting, the contrast in our stories, because you in fact not only kept the supercar but acquired multiple of them and had them for years, loved them. That sort of gets at what minimalism really is. And this is the big misunderstanding. Like, so most people think minimalism is like a lack of sacrifice, like denying yourself of anything that brings you joy. And actually, it's the exact opposite. Minimalism is about asking of everything, does this bring me true joy? And if it does, keep it. If not, get rid of it so that you can make room to like gorge on the things that do bring you joy. So in a way, minimalism is almost like hedonistic. But I think when I ask the question, does this bring me true joy? The key word there is me. I think what you have to be really careful about is, who am I doing this for? Who do I own this for? Who am I buying this for? Why am I doing this? And if it's because it does bring you true joy, that's great. Minimalism can look like having 4 supercars in your garage. But if it doesn't bring you joy, or if you're doing it to signal to others or for a variety of other reasons, then maybe you start questioning that.
Yeah. And for me, I can really honestly say, like, I bought those cars for myself. They were less a signal to the world and more a signal to myself that I made it. But owning them in 2025 was allegiance to a past version of myself.
Yep.
And I think that's where minimalism gets really interesting. It's not just asking once, does this bring me joy? It's continually asking, does this bring me joy? And so enter the Marie Kondo way of life of, hey, this served me really well. I don't regret buying it. And it's not who I want to be or what I want to spend my time doing now.
Well, I mean, sort of your core life philosophy is, I think you say it as like, I reserve the right to be a different person 5 minutes from now than I am right now. And so because you think of everything in life as a process, which I absolutely think is the right way. It's all we have anyway, right? Is the living in this moment. So I think that's the right way to think about it. And, one aspect I want to add also on this notion of minimalism is, it's not about the money or whether you can afford it, right? So whether you're a billionaire or you're broke, there's the famous line from Fight Club is, everything you own owns a piece of you. And that really is true. And I'll tell you, the older I get, the more I want less. I mean, I just want a simple life. And that doesn't mean I won't have nice things. I mean, I still live in a nice house. I have actually, as we speak, I have 10 20-something-year-old house guests staying with us. And it's a lot, but to be honest, it's a ball. My wife and I get so much joy out of that. And it's only possible because we have this big ass house in Boulder that can sleep 15 people. And so that's minimalism for me right now.
Yeah, such a great point, because I also made a fairly viral post on X about selling my supercars. And there are some people that invariably go, well, cool, why don't you sell your big ass house too? And my answer is, well, this house is actually a huge source of joy for me, right? I host people all over the world. We host parties all the time. I host retreats here. Like, it's inspired my work. Like, this is my sanctuary. I built this incredible home. I poured 2.5 years of my life into designing every inch, every detail. And the level of satisfaction and well-being that I get when I wake up in the morning, get my cup of coffee and go, sit on my patio and look at the Red Rock Cliffs, just out here to my left, like, that is wealth to me. And yes, this house costs a lot of money, but that's not actually the point.
Yeah. All right. Let's check ourselves on our bullshit real quick, if you don't mind. Because I want both of us to answer this question. I'm guessing there's some people listening to this who will say, oh, great, a couple of rich guys talking about minimalism and how their, multi-million-dollar houses are minimalist to them. That doesn't apply to me. How would you respond to that?
Yeah. Minimalism for me, and this is where you've shaped my thinking, right? Is let me gorge on the things that do bring me joy and let me get really clear on that. right? So it has looked like paring down for me in the last year, but I was paring down from a pretty extravagant level, right?
Yeah.
And look, the renunciate path is a path to enlightenment, right? I mean, monks renounce worldly possessions and they go live in the monastery, but their worldly needs are taken care of by donors, right? I mean, they have 3 meals a day, so the money loop is sort of closed for them. If we choose to live in Western society, right, we have to engage in the money conversation somehow. And I mean, the reality is, look, it's easier to be rich than poor. Right? I've been both. Right? Yeah. It's so nice to have the luxury, but it's also important to just continually update your opinion and go, am I engaging in excess for excess sake, or is this actually bringing me joy?
Yeah, I think it applies at all levels. And my answer would be sort of similar, is that like clearly having money is better than not. No one's going to argue against that. But actually, I tell people I'm sort of a cautionary tale. Like I'm the guy who made it all the way to the top of the mountain and had all the things, all the prestige, and realized, it's not all it's cracked up to be. And maybe that's a lesson everyone has to learn for themselves, or maybe you can take it from cautionary tales like myself. And I'll tell you, I mentioned climbing as like a catalyst for minimalism. One story I tell a lot is one of my good friends, a guy named Thomas. He lives in Vegas. He's a rock climbing guide, ex-military. He's never made more than $70,000 a year in his whole life. But I used to, I became friends with him and I would observe his life. And I'm like, Thomas, how in the hell do you have a better life than me? Like, you're always traveling, doing cool stuff. You have freedom. Your schedule's not booked up. You make enough money to like live a pretty good life. He's got a house, small house in Vegas. And I'm like, I have checked all the boxes. I did everything I was supposed to do, what society told me to do, and you have a better life than me. And that was very eye-opening. And I think so the way I react to that is that I've been aggressively paring down. And as you know, my wife and I just became empty nesters, and we're actually having a lot of discussion right now about how do we take that even to the next level.
Yeah, and this is, I think, a really poignant conversation, because the version of myself that went out and made the money is a different person than who I am now. So I am incredibly grateful to that younger version of me who was the hard charging, brazen young Navy fighter pilot turned oil and gas investor. I mean, that guy provided me this life. I don't know that I would have the gusto to go do it again.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing is, like, there is some thread of truth, like some piece of all of us wants to signal. I mean, it's just unavoidable. And I think I mentioned to you before that, like, one thing that my wife and I are thinking about is downsizing from this big ass house, which, even though we use it a lot, 95% of the time, it's just my wife and I kind of, bumping around in this house. And but I will tell you, like, it's crossed my mind that, like, if we buy a condo and then I have, the Mike Browns of the world, my friends who I really want to impress, come visit, are they going to be like, oh, I thought Kevin was successful? Like, that does enter my mind, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, of course it does, right? And anybody that tells you it doesn't is lying. I mean, we live in a consumerist society, right? And even like everything you buy, even if you're the pragmatic Tesla owner that says, oh, I don't care about cars, I'm just going to buy a white Tesla. Well, that you're still signaling something to the world about you. You're signaling your pragmatism through your pragmatic car. And that's okay. Like, all of our choices signal something. It's just, am I unconsciously signaling or am I consciously signaling, right? The fact that we can actually bring humor into it and go, oh shit, like what are my friends going to think? It's kind of funny.
It is. I will say there is a solve for that. This will be kind of maybe my last thought on this subject is, what I've learned is there are decisions you can make, purchases you can make that are not only cheaper, but they're better. It's like best of both worlds. And the reason is because they are simple. And the example I use, you mentioned, like, I recently bought a Tesla Model Y. It's not a fancy car. Like, you're not going to impress anybody with a Model Y. It's not the best looking car, but I think it's like the closest thing to the perfect car that's ever been designed. Like, full self-driving is amazing. It's simple. There's zero maintenance on it, and it just does its job. And that makes me so incredibly happy. And it also does send a signal that I want to send, which is like, that's what I value. It's just like simplicity, elegant design. So what I'm talking about really here is like, understand your brand. Like, Ben, his like, my brand is like, hopefully I put my money where my mouth is. Like, I've built a life around simplicity and spending a lot of time outdoors. My calendar strongly supports the fact that I spend a lot of time outdoors, rock climbing. And then everything else in my life, I keep pretty simple. And so those decisions make me feel good, and I'm proud of them. I don't worry about what people think, because that's the brand I want to build.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm saying, right? You've brought that subconscious into the conscious and go, yeah, I know this is signaling, and this is the signal I want to project, and I think that's the right way to do it. I'll finish with a story that really hit me recently. Is I took my wife out for her birthday to Bruto, which is an amazing Michelin star restaurant here in Denver, and it was $1,200, which is an insane amount of money to pay for food. But we've enjoyed fine dining, Michelin style dinners over the years. But recently, I was in Walmart. I wanted to play GoldenEye with my son. I wanted to show my son the video game that I grew up on. So I was going to go buy a Nintendo Switch, and it was $600. Okay, but I was doing so at Bruto. I rip out the credit card and swipe without thinking about it. In Walmart, I'm doing these mental gymnastics of like, oh man, should I really buy this $600 video game console? The hilarious thing is, I've probably played, in the last couple of weeks, 30 or 40 hours with my son. We've laughed our ass off. Like, we've had a great time. I've actually gotten so much more cost per use, like value out of the $600 video game console than I did the $1,200 dinner. And it really kind of shifted my perspective of like, I'm kind of over it. Like, my wife and I went on a date last night, and we went to the little local Chinese place, and we spent $67.
Well, actually, that reminds me of maybe a good way to wrap this up is our family mantra, which hangs on a Post-it note on our refrigerator, is hung there for years. My girls repeat it while rolling their eyes at dad. But it says, Dahlstrom's invest in experiences. And I think a huge key to minimalism is, if you're going to spend on experiences. And there's no greater example of that than a Michelin star meal. We love Michelin star meals. We don't do it all the time, but it's a great investment when you can save up and afford it. And you introduced a twist to the Nintendo Switch thing, which is you turned it in. That became an experience, right? There is literally no better experience than 30 hours with your son. Like, that's peak, right? And so you enabled an experience, and those investments are no brainers. I think when it's a thing for the sake of the thing, that's the ones you should question.
Yeah, that's it, right? And like, it's not even just between me and my son. We had my wife and daughter join in playing Mario Kart. But our whole family sitting around with tears in our eyes, laughing, playing these video games.
Priceless.
It was such a priceless experience. Even and my wife's birthday dinner was nice, but it wasn't nearly as much fun as the video games. Yeah.
Well, we could do another episode about like how to become a connoisseur of experiences. Because honestly, that's really how I've evolved. Is I think of myself as an experience connoisseur. I enjoy orchestrating experiences for other. I know you do too. And there's a real art to it, and it's not necessarily about money.
Yeah. I mean, final thought, Coco Chanel says the best things in life are either free or very, very expensive.
Love it. Banger.
All right.
All right. Let's stop there.
All right. See you, man.
Thanks, brother.